So welcome to this journey into healing. There's a story about a great Ayurvedic sage named Jivaka. When he was a medical student, his teacher assigned the class the task of going out into the environment and bringing back a few things that had no medicinal value. So within an hour or so, all the students in the class came back with this twig or this rock or this bug, but no one could find Jivaka. So everyone was waiting, hours went by, students were getting somewhat frustrated. At the end of the day, there was still no Jivaka, so they retired the class, came back the next day, another day went by, same story. All the students were really cussing under their breaths. Where was this guy? And then a few days later, Jivaka came back and he was empty-handed. And again, the students were very upset. We wasted our time for the last few days. Where have you been? And then, demonstrating his understanding of life, he said, I couldn't find anything that didn't have some influence on health. I looked at the rocks and I understood that there were minerals within those rocks that could have a healing impact on our lives. I looked at every plant, every weed that I could find, and as I experienced the power of that plant, I realized there was something there for us. I looked at every animal, every bird, every mammal, every lizard, and knew that everything that I put my attention on was in some way changing my state of being. I looked at the sun and the moon and the stars and the clouds and realized that everything that I brought into my awareness changed who I was and was metabolized into a new form of who I was. So I couldn't find anything that didn't in some way or another impact my health. And this is the framework of Ayurveda that we really hope to impart to you over the next few days. Not so much Ayurveda as an alternative medical system, because we don't really see it as such, but as providing this unifying framework that integrates the environment, our senses, our body, our minds, our emotions, and our spirit. And that when we really begin to think in these terms, we'll see that, like Jivaka, everything that we put our attention on can have an influence on our well-being, and we really will be holistic in our lives and in our practices. So what do we hope to accomplish? One thing that we hope to accomplish is to create the understanding that healing occurs at many different levels. There's this expression, it says, if the only tool that you have in your tool chest is a hammer, then everything starts to look like a nail. And I think one thing that we've seen in this whole world of healing is that everybody has their hammer. For a medical doctor, it may be a prescription pad. For a chiropractor, it's a spinal adjustment. For a homeopath, it's a tincture, a miasmic tincture. For a hypnotherapist, it's an induction of a chant. For an acupuncturist, it may be acupuncture needles. But true healing means choosing the right tool for the right concern and not trying to impose one particular structure on everybody's issues. So one of our goals here this week really is to provide you with new tools so that you can perhaps choose a subtler intervention when it's appropriate without relinquishing the more powerful tools that may be appropriate in other circumstances. We really want to try to break down the barriers between disciplines. This framework that we're going to be operating within is really a very holistic one because it utilizes everything in our environment, outer and inner, to establish increasing levels of balance and integration in our lives. Ultimately, we're making a shift from a very material-based view of the world to what we call a consciousness-based paradigm. Since probably the time of Isaac Newton, perhaps a little bit before, we've had this idea that life is the byproduct of molecular interactions. You get a bunch of molecules together, they collide, they form certain boundaries and bonds, and through some very sophisticated and basically unimaginable process, we eventually create human beings, awareness, love, emotions, joyfulness. We're making a new shift now, and it's really reflecting in every aspect of our lives that consciousness is really the primary substance of the universe. When we look at the world from a material perspective, then it makes complete sense that our only interventions have been material-based interventions. If the body is just a physical machine, then of course we're going to interact with it in the same way that we would bring our car into an auto repair shop. We'd want to clear out the fuel line or replace a broken part. But if we begin to understand that the body is really a network of energy and information, constantly exchanging intelligence with the universe, then it begins to open up the possibility of how to create greater balance, create healing in the mind and in the body through choices and behaviors. We are the sum total of the choices that we've made up until this point. And if we want to change who we are, then we just simply need to begin to make new choices, new interpretations, new perceptions. I think that we all agree that there's probably no one who has created the conversation around this better than Dr. Deepak Chopra. Deepak's really been this remarkable translator of this ageless healing wisdom into language that in this modern age of fax machines and cellular telephones and splitting of the atom, we can really understand and integrate. And so really, I consider Deepak to be the professor emeritus of mind-body medicine. So please join me in welcoming Deepak Chopra.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to have you. Welcome to this course. I think we'll have a lot of fun besides uncovering a lot of stuff that we already know. At some level, everyone knows what's going to be taught for the rest of this week. But I think what you'll get is a very good theoretical framework which you can use not only to employ these healing techniques that you learn for yourself, but also for your clients and patients. So this is a very exciting course for both me and David, because we're going to use the Ayurvedic framework to explain everything to you. But if I think I was to choose another expression for this, it would be consciousness-based medicine. And even as we go into what that really means, I think it's important to go a little bit into the historical background of how consciousness-based medicine emerged and is continuing to evolve and will continue to evolve. And we need to go into a little bit of history into just the understanding of paradigms in general. Thomas Kuhn, who was a philosopher and a scientist at the same time, coined this word paradigm. And paradigm means a conceptual framework, a map. When you want to explore a certain kind of territory, then you need a map in order to explore that territory. So a paradigm is really a map, and we should always remember that the map is not the territory. However, the map allows us to explore a certain type of territory. If you don't have the map, then you're unlikely to knowingly explore that territory. And as we've evolved over the last several million years into who we are right now, Homo sapiens and conscious beings, there have been periods in our history where the paradigm has changed. And as the paradigm has changed, then the territory that we've explored has also changed, or the way we've explored that territory has been changing and evolving. Thomas Kuhn made a very important statement when he said that data, so-called scientific data, is not just lying around there for us to look at objectively. We summon forth the kind of data, even in our scientific methodologies, we summon forth the kind of data that reinforces our paradigm. So our conceptual framework allows us to elicit from what is essential